In this video, I'm going to show you how to get started with ipywidgets. And so we have been working on the GeoDemo Python package. And so if we have a map, sometimes you might want to have some interactive widget so that you can interact with the users. And so users don't have to write code in order to be able to interact with the map. And so first, let's go to the GeoDemo.js hub to download the notebook example, and then on the left side here click notebooks, ipywidgets, and you can click the upper right corner to download this notebook to your computer. So I'm going to download to my downloads folder, and after that you can open this one using an Anaconda prompt, and I'm going to right click, open in Windows terminal. If you don't have this option, probably need to install the Windows PowerShell from the Microsoft Store. So you can go to the start menu and then Microsoft Store. Then you can search, for example, PowerShell and click this one. Then you can install. The reason that I like this one because you can right click anywhere and then you can just open the Windows PowerShell without having to open one from the C directory. So you need to navigate. So this is much easier. And after that, you can just conda activate. So the conda environment that we created is called demo. Then you can just type Jupyter Notebook to open Jupyter Notebook on your browser. Then you can click ipywidgets. So here, this one we have a lot of sections. You can we're going to go through here one by one. And before I get into that, I want to show you some example, like what kind of things you can do with ipywidget. So for example, if I go to the gmap.org, and I'm going to show you one example. So you can click notebooks, then find number 71, timelapse. Okay, so in here, I'm going to download just this notebook just to show you similarly. So 71, you can click the link here if you want to create the time lapse for any location if you want. So you can click, go to the online, the web app that I developed. So I'm going to similarly open the time lapse, this one here. So this example using use the Gmap Python package. You're welcome to install if you want. I'm just going to simply just run all the cells, and I'm going to show you what kind of a widget you can develop. So this is the example, and as you can see, right now we have a default maps in here, Google Map. You can click the upper right corner here, and then you can click this icon, the globe icon. If you click somewhere here, this is for you to create a time-lapse animation for any location. So you can click here, you can do a quick search. You can search by location, for example, ROC. Right, or anywhere you like, and then I'm just going to, for example, simply you can draw a rectangle on the map, right? So for example, you can click here on the map, and then you can draw a rectangle. So we are trying to create the time lapse. On the right here, this one actually is created using ipywidgets, so the user don't have to behind the scene. This one is many lines of code, but user don't have to write anything. So they can just check, for example, the drop down list. They can type in anything, for example. They can select different bank combination. They can change this. They can change the year. This is all customizable. So this is what ipywidgets can do. It's very powerful. And then after that, I can just simply, for example, create time lapse. It's going to take maybe 20-30 seconds. Then you will be able to have that time lapse animation, and it's very nice because the no source code is. The user need to write, and they can use Google Search Engine to create a time lapse like this very easily. Okay, so now the time lapse has been created successfully. So you can see the dramatic changes of here at this location. Here we have an ROI. You can click the clear all to remove the ROI, so it's more clear. And so this is just one simple example. You can also click the time lapse to download this one to a computer if you want. And I'm going to show you some of these in the next couple of videos, how to create something like this using ipywidget. Okay, so next let's go back to the ipywidget, and I'm going to show you step by step how to get started. So let me go back to here. first you need to import the library, and so this one here I'm not going to use the gmap, but just going to use the geodemo. It's much lightweight Python package, and we're also going to import the ipywidget. Keep that in mind, you don't need to include this one in your Python package. So if you go to your package, if you look at my requirements.txt, right, I don't use the ipywidget because ipyliblet automatically is going to install the ipywidget. Ipyliblet actually is built on top of ipywidget. So once we import the library, then we can create an interactive map, right? So we have talked about this in the past videos. Once we have the map, then we can, for example, add some data. And I'm going to show you here. First, you need to initialize the Google's engine. Then we can add some layers. So this one here, we just add, going to add the global DM, right? And after that, we can also add another data layer, for example, census data, the state boundary. Once we have these two data layers, so the next one here is that we can actually change the opacity of the layers interactively. Keep that in mind. This one here is the ipyliblet. Create basically is an ipyliblet map, and you can display the map at multiple locations. So here we display the map, right? But you can write this one somewhere else, and these two maps actually are linked together. So if you make changes to the map in here, it's also going to be updated there here. So this is very nice because a user basically you have multiple view, but there's only one scene behind the scene, and you can make changes to update things if needed. Once you have the map, right, we have added some layers. ipywidget or ipyliblet has a property called layers. If you want, you can go to the just search ipyliblet. You can go to the documentation, and on the left here, click map. You should be able to scroll down to see all the properties. For example, I'm not sure if there's one. Okay, layers, right? Attributes. So this is one of the attribute. You can take a look at all the layers that have been added to this map. So, or you can just execute this one and scroll down here. You should be able to see the layers, right? So these are all the tile layer. Class and 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 layers on this map. If you click the layer control, you will be able to see like we added 2 Earth engine layers and also the Google Map base layer, but there's also the one behind. This is the base map, Google Street, OpenStreetMap and Google Map DM stage, right? Once you know the data layers, you can actually, because this is a tuple, you can index the tuple. So 0, 1, 2, right? So for example, if you want to index the DM layer, the first one, the index starting from 0, 1, 2, 3. So if you just index this one, and then it become a layer. So the layer, actually, you can use the ipywidget interact function, and you can create something like the opacity to change from 0 to 1, and then the step 1. I can just quickly show you here, right? So then keep that in mind, right? If we move this one, it's going to change the opacity, right? So this is only like basically one line of code, very easy to do. I can switch left and right. Similarly, you can index the vector data layer. You can also use the interact opacity, right? So opacity, you can pass in the start, the end, and the step. Well, let me do it one more time. And if I switch the opacity, you will see here it's also being changed when you switch. This one also changed. If you see this layer here, they're all being changed. So these are all linked together. If I change the opacity all to 0, you go up, it's gone. And similarly here. So this is something you can do easily using ipywidget. Okay, so next I'm going to show you some common widget that you might want to use. If I show you the early example in here, right? You have drop down list, you can have text box, you can have slider, you can also have a color, you can have all kind of things in here. So let me go back to this one. And the first one here I'm going to introduce is numeric widget. You can have, for example, integer slider, float slider. So if I change this one, right? So you can set a value. This is basically create an instance of integer slider, and then you can set the value. The value is the default value. It's going to be set. So here we have 2000, right? And you can also have a description. The description is at the beginning of here, description. and the value is what kind of default value you want to use, and the minimum and the maximum, and also the step, right? So the step is by 1. Whenever you make changes, and if you want to get the value, you can just this variable dot value, right? And so it's 1991. If I change it again, if you execute again, you will get this one. So this is how similarly in the time lapse animation, right? User can slide from the left and right. They can customize the layer, the year, the month, in order to create the time lapse. And this is how easy you can do. You can create something like this, allow user to interact with your web. So the next one here is the float slider. Similarly, you can set the minimum and the maximum, and also the step, also the description. So those are some of the common things you can use to create the slider, right? You can make changes, and then you just need to get the value. Again, you change again, you execute again. These are all linked together. Also, you can do int progress. So you can basically, for example, sometimes if you're running on a program, or if you're looping through something, you can set basically this is a slider from, for example, similar to the slider, but you can change from 1, for example, to 100. It's up to you how you want to update, and you can also change the style. This is horizontal, but you can also change the style. By default, it's using this kind of a blue color, but you can change to some other color. For example, let me change it here. It changed. This one is green. If you wanted like warning, you can do that as well, right? And for danger, most likely I think it's like red color, so you can change it. And the next two here, these two basically is in text, right? So you can have up arrow and down arrow to set. Again, the value here is the default one you're going to show, right? If I execute again, it's going to reset to the default 7 and also the description. So most of the ipywidget has this int, the value description. These two most likely all of them pretty much have this. Also, you can go to the widget list, right? If you want to see the complete list, you can go to here, and then you can scroll down. This is a lot of things you can choose from. You can just go through some of those. Depends on what you want for your application. There are a lot of things you can develop and customize. You can have text box, you can have selection, you can have also HTML. And let's go back to here. Okay, so next one here, I'm going to show you how to use, for example, the Boolean widget, right? So we can have a checkbox, allow users to check a specific option if you want that to be activated. So if I click this one, this is the toggle button, right? You can click, it's become dark green. If I click again, it's unchecked. Also, you might see this one here, there's a check mark in here. So if you click this one, it's check mark. So the check mark comes from the from the icon, comes from the icon option. So most of the widget you can also use this icon option, and the icon comes with a so-called font awesome. If you want to find out what kind of icon you can use, you can go back to the list in here and then click this one, icons. This one right now only support version 4.7. So if you click the link, and if you scroll down, there are a lot of icons in here that you can utilize, right? So if you like anything, you can just get the name. So if you like the icon, get the name, and then you can come back to the ipywidget. For example, this one is a car, and if I come back to here, I can change the widget here. I can change this one to car, and then Alt Enter. You'll be able to see this one, right? So it can be changed to anything that comes from this here. You should be able to use it. For example, map, right? You can change it to a map if you want. So let me simulate here. If you change to something that's not in that one, it's not going to work. Okay, so this one map 2, there's nothing in the font awesome here. Name map 2, and for example, lock, right? Anything you like, just pick up one and then see which one you want. If you by default, if you don't use any button style, it's going to be just gray color. Okay, so if you click, toggle button means you click, it's activated. You click again, it's unchecked. Okay, so there's also the value. If you don't click it, it's going to be false. If you click and we run again, it's going to become true. So this is how you can pass the parameters from your app or from the interface to the program behind the scene. You can run this one based on the option that being provided. Similarly, you can use the track box, right? So we select this one, click me. Right now it's untracked, so it's false. Also, you can set the default, right? The value, it can be either true or false. And you can have a description. You can whether you want to indent or not. If you indent, it's going to like indent it to the right. And so right now, if I check again, run again, it's going to become true. So these two are very common. You can use that. Also, you can have like selection drop down list. And let me show you in here. Right, you can create different options. So the option here, you can change it later. Right now, you only have 3 options, but I can add more options if I want to. You can also set the default value. You can if you set to a specific one, it needs to come from this one, but you can also set to none. For example, you set to none, and then hit Alt Enter. It's going to be empty. Right now, if you execute this one, it's nothing. So then I can select here. If I execute again, you can select anywhere. Right. The nice thing about ipywidget that you can always change the status or the state after you create the widget. So make it like fully interactive. So if I come back here, if I add another line, I can just simply, for example, in here, I can drop down this dot options, right? Equal to. Although right now, you have 3 options in here. If you have more options, if you want to change to others, you're welcome to do that. So if I put this one here, and maybe I add another one, let's say here, single quotes, maybe India, right? And I hit Control options, invite double equal. So let me remove one. If I execute this one, so you can see it right now. This being changed. If I click, you have a new option. So you can everything is basically customized. Everything within the widget, all the attributes, you can make changes. And then it's going to reflect it to whatever wherever you print out this one. If you display that, it's going to be changed. Besides the drop down list, you can also use the radio buttons. So let me execute radio button. Right, I can select from one of those, and when you print out the value, it's going to act to retrieve the value, whatever you selected. Right. Next one, text widget. This is also the most common one. You can use this to accept user enter any text if you want them to allow them to enter text. So it will be just one line. And from the description, again, is what you want to provide the description. And also the, excuse me, the value. You can also put a placeholder. So if I remove the USA, now you will see this is the kind of a gray color. This is a placeholder. So you can provide some tips, basically inform the user what kind of things to enter, right? And if I put anything, that placeholder is gone. This is just one line. If you want multiple lines, you can use the so-called text area. So widget.text area, value placeholder, something like that, string. Again, you can also remove this one. It's going to show you the placeholder, very common. Next one, HTML. So this one is also very powerful. If you know how to use HTML, you can create all kind of interactive widget on the map, and then to have some nice images or videos showing on the map or on your Jupyter notebook. So this one here is HTML, and you can pass in the value. The value is the HTML or JavaScript. You can place in here, and let me show you. For example, you can have some simple text. You have B, right? The B tag is basically bold the text. So you see this one here is being bolded. You can also display some images. So value equal to this entire one here. This is a HTML. And if I execute, this one shows the Google Earth Engine image, right? The logo. So the source, and you can set also the width and height. You can also change it, for example, maybe to 200 and 200. It's going to increase. So you have full control. If you know HTML, this one is basically the HTML widget. Is so powerful. You can have long lines of a source code here, and then to display something on the map. Next one, button. This one is also one of the most common one being used, right? As I mentioned earlier, you can set icon. You can have click. But for this video, I'm just going to show you what kind of a widget you can use. in the next video, I'm going to show you how to actually to interact, right? So when the user click, you might want to execute something. How do you execute those? How do you write a function actually to link with this button? It's also very important. So now it doesn't do anything. You just click. It doesn't happen anything. You can change the icon, right? So I can change to globe. I'm going to change the globe, and for example, map. Anything from the font, awesome. This in here, you can put it as an icon. Also, you can have a date picker. Sometimes if you want the user to enter, for example, their birth date, or if you want to select some imagery, right? You need to basically have a start date and end date. The user can be select. Once it's picked, if you execute the value, it's going to convert this one to a Python datetime format. Also, color picker, right? The one that I showed you earlier, you can pick any color. You can also have a default color. So this is using hex code, hex color code. You can click here to pick anyone, any value. It's going to show you here the RGB, but you can also change different. This is hex color. You can change different mode, and once it is clicked, it's going to show you the hex color here on the left. You can click any other color. It's going to be updated. Very nice. So if you're designing something that you allow, you want the user to pick a color, this is the one that you want to use. Last one I'm going to show you here, it is the output widget. I think this one is the most powerful because this widget, you can see it as a container to display all kind of widgets. All the widgets that we introduced above, it can be displayed on the output widget. Think about this just like a canvas. You can put anything onto this canvas. So let me show you here. Just create widget to output, and then you can have a layout. In the layout, you can have set something. If you don't set anything, it's going to be just empty. So if I delete anything, you can delete. So right now it doesn't show anything. But this hidden one here, this is basically a container. Right now we haven't had anything within the container, so it's empty line. But after you create the output widget, you can print something directly to the widget. So with output. So you have a print or you can display a map or figure within the output widget. Okay, let me execute one more time, right? And so next we're going to print something to the output widget. Pay attention. We're executing the code here, but the result is actually going to display here because as I mentioned earlier, the widgets are all linked together. The location doesn't matter. It's going to change all at once. So if I execute, now you will see this one here. We print hello world 10 times to the widget, right? So if you display in here, this is also a container. We can continue to do anything with the output widget. It's going to be displayed under here. Next one I'm showing you here. Also, you can clear the output widget, right? So after you're done with something, maybe you want to clear something. And let me go back to the time-lapse apps in here. Let me display and check the layers. So this one here, actually this one is the output widget because when you if I reset, it's gone. So when I create the time lapse, you can print out some information, and this is very important because if you directly use a print function, all the text goes printed beneath the map, right? So sometimes if you just have an interface, you want to show everything here within the map, then you can use an output widget rather than print something here beneath the map. So you can have things all within one user interface. Next one, I'm going to show you here how you can display a video, right? So first, we're going to clear the output. So this is the output that we just did earlier. We can clear the output and then we can display a video, right? Now you see the video. Also here, if you print out this one more time, you're going to have multiple. But like I said, they're all linked together. So you have multiple views. Behind the thing is all one. So this is basically a video related to the time lapse that I showed you earlier. You can also clear out. For example, I clear out. It's going to remove the video and going to display just for example an int slider. So if I see this one, now we have 3 instances, and if I move one of them, it's going to move them all of them together. This is super nice. It doesn't matter, so you just need one instance. You can link that throughout the map. Okay, so next I'm going to show you some a little bit more advanced example. We're going to use the output widget so we can add something to the map. And this is just you don't have to understand all the source code right now. I'm just going to show you some example how you can use this to create interactive graphical user interface, and then you can add to the map. It doesn't matter whether you're going to display geospatial data or you're going to do some analysis. You can always add some components to the map. Even for the here, if I look, I'm going to show you. Let me click this one here. Everything here, if you see all these buttons, these are all developed using ipywidget, right? You can click any button. You can also click here. They are all using ipywidget, and there are different components. So if you see from this, these are all these toggle button, and this one is also toggle button. If I click, for example, this one, this is a drop down list, right? So if you select this one here, and these are all the check boxes, right? So this is the icon, this is a slider, and as long as you know how to put things together, I'll show you next video how to actually combine multiple widget on just one, right? So it's not you're not going to have one widget that can do everything. So you're going to put together all kind of widgets together. At the end, you will be able to have something like this. Okay, so next, let me show you another example. I'm going to create a map similar to what we did earlier, right? So we have two data layers, Google Earth Engine data layers on the map. Then I'm going to show you how to you can add actually a widget to the map here. In ipyliblet, if you want to add something to the map, you need to use the so-called widget control. So widget control is a class. If you go to the ipywidget website, and then if you scroll down to see this one here, widget control. Very simple. If you want to add anything to the map, you need to use the widget control, and then you can pass in the widget and also the positions, right? You can also set minimum, maximum, and also whether or not you want the background to be transparent or not. So if I come back to the widget, to the example, so first we want to create a widget. So create the widget using the widget output, this one, and then you can create a widget control. The widget control, this one belongs to ipyliblet. So the first parameter to pass in is the widget. The second one is where you want to place the widget. So it's going to place in four corners: upper left, top left, top right, bottom left, and bottom right. So here maybe we can place here at the bottom right, and then you can add control. So if I run this one, right now it's nothing, but there's something in here. It's invisible yet because we haven't printed anything to the output widget. First, we can just execute this one here, and let's take a look. Right now you have this one, nice map, because we print something here to the map. Don't directly write print a map. So if I just this one, if I just run this one here, it's being printed here under the cell block. It's not going to be printed in here. Anytime if you want to put something to the map, you need to do something within the output widget. So with something, anything that will write beneath this one here, if it's intended, is going to this output widget. It can be a print function. It can be display a map or figure or anything you like. So if I right now write one more time, keep in mind, if you use the output widget, if I run this one again, how many lines do you expect to see in here? 2 or 3? It's going to be 3 because we have this one, and we run this one again, it's going to print 2 additional lines. So if I put this one here, now you have 3 lines. If you don't want that, you can clear, right? You can output widget dot clear output. Then in this case, it's going to just 2. Right? So this is simply how you can customize. Next, I'm showing you how we can add the logo. So again, we can clear this one, and then we can add the logo. So the logo here is HTML widget, right? We already showed this earlier, how to use HTML to create a widget, and then you can just using the display. So within an output widget, you can either use the print to print some text, or you can use the display to display some images or video or anything you like. So if I log this one again, now we have the logo. The logo here in the lower right corner. And the last one here is a more complicated example. So all the ipyliblet all the components. So the ipyliblet actually is an ipywidget, and the ipywidget has a method called onInteraction. So onInteraction, basically when you interact with the map, what you want the user to do. So you can define a function. Whenever user interact with the map, it's going to retrieve the coordinate. When the user click on the map, it's going to get the coordinates, and then get the coordinate, we can query the data. So let me execute this one first, and just to show you here. Once you have this, so if I click on the map, you will see here now it's querying the Earth engine data, right? So if I click here on the map, you will see this one here, access, right? And this is how what you can do using ipywidget and ipyliblet. If you want to look at the source code, you can. If you don't understand, that's totally fine. So don't worry too much. I'm going to show you later more video how to use this. So it's going to retrieve the coordinates and then transform to Google Earth Engine point geometry, and then use the point geometry to filter the polygon. Once you get the polygon, then it's going to print out to retrieve the information. For example, get the name of that column, basically get attribute, and then it's going to print out the information. It's also going to create a new layer. So depending on the geometry, it's going to add a new layer to the map so that they can be, you can see the red color, right? If I click somewhere else, it's also going to create a map. And this is something you can do using ipyliblet. If I show you, go back to the Gmap example. Let me maybe, if I change this slightly here, let me create this one here. Gmap. It's going to be using the Gmap import Gmap. So this one here right now we're using the Gmap rather than GeoDemo. So if you click here upper right, this is all the interactive widget that I created. This one is so-called inspector. So if I click this one and then I click on the map, do you see this one? This is also ipywidget using the output control. So if I click on the map, it's going to show you all the attributes belong to that polygon, right? So if you click any of those, also you can display raster layer and also vector layer, right? So behind the scene, it's doing something very similar to this, but it's a little bit more because we have more information. You can also need to deal with multiple data layers. But if you understand this one, you can build more complicated widgets and using this to interact with the Earth engine data. So users don't have to write code actually to retrieve the information. You can do that for them. You can write something very similar for your package and to add some functionality so that you can allow the user to select something, and then behind the scene you execute the source code, then you display the result. Okay. So similarly, for example, this is the inspector. I can also do, for example, maybe for plotting we don't really have much yet, but there are a lot of things you can do. For example, you can click this one. This is a drop down list. You can change the base map, right? You can change the base layer. You might need to turn off other data layers in order to see that, right? So very easy to do. You just need to figure out the mechanism behind what you want to do, and once you know what kind of widget, then you can start doing coding. But whenever you select something, right, it's going to change. This is I'm going to introduce in the next video how we can execute something when the user changes the map changes to the user interface. Okay, so that's all for this video. I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.